right. Hello and good morning to you. Today is January 23rd, 2021. It is a sunny Saturday morning here in North America, and this is going to be video 725. And I think the video will be titled something about maybe duality or something. I don't know. But earlier in the week, I kind of had complained a little bit about I felt like I had gotten out of touch with my feminine side, and I kind of blamed that on the estrogen, not being on estrogen, not being on estrogen. And I still believe, again, if you're not giving your brain fuel, you know. Anyway, just my opinion, just my opinion. Now, that said, yesterday when I was at work, um, I had music on and I was in my zone. I was doing my stuff, and I just felt, you know, things kind of connect. And I felt very much in connection with my feminine self, okay, which for me I call Karen. I felt very much integrated and communing somewhat with the feminine side. And it was really kind of cool. It was really kind of nice. And it kind of made me think that, you know, that connection, that person is within me. It's me. It's me. I'm this, uh, you know. In some ways, I kind of talk about as two separate things, but we're one person. We're together, you know. But um, I was working on a project yesterday, and I'm putting the tarot deck to the Wheel of the Year, um, and just so happened we were up to um, the priestess, the high priestess. Okay, and the card really, in short, is about connecting with your feminine energy. It was like slap in the face to me. Wake up, you know, get in touch with your feminine self. Get in touch with your feminine self. And I guess what I wanted to kind of come back to, um, the previous major arcana was the magician, okay, which is the male. It's getting in touch with your male side and masculinity, and followed by the priestess, getting in touch with your feminine side. And the archetypes, it's why we, you know, on the one hand, you can very quickly and easily dismiss the tarot as being any sort of, I'm going to say, divinatory, predicting the future type thing. Um, but it is, in my view, it deals in archetypes. And the more that you go and you learn about archetypes, and there's a lot of Carl Jung, some psychology in there, but um, the more things kind of stand out with you, you know. And if you're a fan of Joseph Campbell and the idea of the monomyth and the hero's journey and everything, I mean, it's got some substance to it. I highly recommend you checking it out if you want to. But one of the ideas behind modern druidry um, is somewhat of the quest of the soul to become a complete being, to become a complete person. And I think in many ways that is the trans person's journey. That is the trans person's travel. That is the trans person's objective to a degree. At least it is for me. Um, you know, we we're born into this world without any choice. We're born into this world, and our biology, from a very base point of view. Excuse me, I got a hair in my, you know, our um, oh, I don't have any dice handy. You know, oh yeah, I do. There we go. It's a good old D20. It's a D20 dice. You know, we were born in this world, and chance said, rolled a 12. Okay, it's a boy. Go forward with the boy plans. Or we'll roll it again. Another chance. What are the odds? Give me an odd number. 50% chance, right? I rolled an 8. Let's say it was an odd number, a 5. Uh, and the little genetic system said, okay, let's make it a girl. You know, we had no conscious choice over what that was. It was random. It's a random mutation. I rolled a 14. No odd numbers yet. Um, but that's the way we came into this world. And as we kind of know now, as far as a gender spectrum goes, you know, male, female, can be anywhere along that spectrum, regardless of what organ your body randomly. Let's do it again. 2. No odd numbers yet. Oh my goodness. We're defying the odds, right? Should it, out of 4 dice rolls, in theory, 2 of them should have been odd, right? Not a loaded dice, by the way. Um, uh, so again, chance brought us into this world, and who we became, our soul perhaps, was more masculine or feminine on a gender spectrum. And if you believe in there being some sort of divine power or some sort of order to the universe, that's everything, okay, everything, then that power has to be masculine and feminine, right? Because if it was masculine only and you're part of that being's power, there'd be no females. They'd all be males, right? And vice versa. If you believe in a goddess that's everything and all powers, then as an aspect of her power and abilities, there'd be no men because she's a woman. Okay. Um, and in a binary system, that's just the way it works. And so, again, come into this world, roll a 2 again, no odd numbers yet. And you're non-binary, you feel like you're neither male nor female. Unfortunately, for most of us, this dice, rolled an 18. No odd numbers yet. I'm starting to think there's something going on here. Um, you know, you have no say in it. You're non-binary, but biologically, unless there was a complication or a mutation, you were born with a penis or a vagina. I mean, just again, no rhyme or reason. Roll it the dice. Let's try it again. Give me an odd number. No 8. Okay, again. So what happens if your body, your spirit, your soul, who you identify as, is a man? And as you can see so far, we've had what, 4 or 5, maybe 6 die rolls, and you were born with a vagina. But this is you, right? This is your soul, and you're born with a vagina. Society already at the time of your birth has picked out a set of norms about what's right and what's wrong, how you're going to dress, how you're going to act, how you're going to behave, simply because you were born with a vagina, when in reality, your spiritual self, your true self, is a man. And that's kind of, up until the early 19th century, or let me rephrase that. I always get my centuries mixed up. Um, 18th century, okay, 1850s. And right around the middle of the 1850s, until psychology, you know, gained its footprint and religion sort of ran the world. Um, if you were again our person here, our trans man, what we would call a trans man, man with a vagina, up until 1850-ish, people looked at the Holy Bible and they said, "No, God made you this way. You have a, and they had the power and the enforcement to do things to you. They would guilt you and shame you. And as recently as last year in Kentucky, they would shock you. It was still legal in Kentucky in 2020 for children and young adults to get electroshock therapy to convince them that no, this isn't true. I mean, really, no joke. So, I don't know where I was driving with this. Oh, psychology came along. And, once science started to replace this in the 1850s and on, 1900s, and you have people like Carl Jung, Sigmund Freud, okay, people that kind of came along and said, well, let's look at this. And, we began to be a little smarter, and we looked at, gender on a spectrum. We looked at sexuality on a spectrum. There's two or three or maybe four or five other dimensions of a personality where we used to have absolutes, a binary absolute, that we just don't have anymore. I mean, and it's the kind of thing that there are some people who are, want to just sit there and go la 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 la, you know, la 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 la. My Bible says, Jesus says, the Bible says. They still want to do this, which is okay for them. But if you're on the other side of the stick, if you're being oppressed or repressed, it ain't that great. And so we live in a world today where, luckily, hopefully, we know about this spectrum. Um, but I want to talk a little more about duality. And you'll pardon me if for my non-binary, I'm thinking of Max in my head right now. Max is probably sitting there going, um, but it's liberating to know that we're on the spectrum. And what will happen in our society as they, them, theirs becomes a replacement for he and she. Um, I know in my daughter's school system, teachers used to refer to mom and dad. Well, what happens if you have two moms? What happens if you have two dads? So now they just refer to parents. They don't put a gender to it. They don't put a sex to it. What may seem somewhat odd to us today will probably be the norm some 20 years from now. And people will look back and say, oh my gosh, how primitive were these people? Um, the same way we might look at, a third world country who doesn't, don't know how to make electricity, or, things that we use every day. will kind of become commonplace. But what hit me in the ass yesterday when I pulled and I started to do my research on the priestess, the high priestess, you know, was the idea that number one, I needed to get. It was a call to get in touch with my inner femininity, which was here all along. Like Glinda says to Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, you could have gone home all along. The power was within you, and you're like, oh, well, thanks for making me go through this journey where I had to, fight the Wicked Witch of the East and put my friends at danger. I could have gone home all along. But I think as part of our journey, um, obviously for a trans person, with our analogy here for a trans man, it's up to them. It's their life. It's their body. If they want to change their appearance somewhat, whether it be clothes, how they address themselves socially, how they interact with other people, if they want to be somewhere between these two, or if in fact they want to take hormones and have surgery and present and live as their authentic selves as a man, or for us trans women as a woman. Okay. And where I'm at now, middle age, maybe when I was younger, um, we'll flip them. When I was younger, my idea was to transition and throw this card away, throw this to the winds, and this is all I was. But for where I'm at now, I see that really it is an integration. It's an integration of these to be a whole person. And again, we're going to get back into Carl Jung here, our shadow self, our anima, our animus. Okay. Um, we have to come to terms with and perhaps learn from the other part of the universe to be a whole being, like perhaps the divine being is, if there is such a thing, if you believe in such a thing. And certainly, in the past, people, they looked around themselves and they knew each other. They knew there were men and women, and there were, you know, there was livestock with penises and livestock with vaginas, and the vaginas seem to be where the baby cows come from. So that's a female cow, as I am a female person, as opposed to um, my male cat who seems to fuck anything that moves. He's a male. You're a man. I mean, again, it was a binary system. And so, it's very easy for them to say, well, then the gods, if there's a supreme being, there's female gods, there's male gods, there's gods in between, there's gods of both, They were much more open-minded and much more creative, you know. And it wasn't until um, you know, for in our modern world, but modern world, once Christianity sort of established itself, it put the man at the front and did away with the female as far as divinity goes. And for the bulk of our existence as in a modern society in the last 100 to 200 years, um, we took this as being normal. Christianity, there was a God. He was male, okay? And if you're a woman in the Bible, you're either a prostitute or a virgin. Um, you know, there's no real women. I mean, you got some, you got Rebecca, you got other, you know, especially in the Old Testament, you got the daughters sleeping with their father and all sorts of shenanigans. Um, but again, to be a whole person, kind of what Carl Jung, you know, if you were a man, to get in touch with your feminine side, what can you learn from it to become a whole person? In the same way as if you were a female, how to get in touch with your masculine side or your masculine self to integrate that to become a whole person. So externally, yeah, you'd still be a man or a woman if you choose to be. You know, my world is binary. My world, obviously, I want to be in this camp. I don't want to be in this. I lived in this camp. I don't want to be in this camp. Um, I lived in this camp when really I was this, and so here I am now. Um, but again, I think again as part of completing that journey, if we want to be whole people, we kind of need to assimilate and recognize our wholeness, and that maybe that comes later in life. Like I said, when I was younger, I wanted to throw this to the winds, and I didn't want to acknowledge it. I wanted to be rid of it. Almost as if, and some people are very adamant it never happened. I'm going to change my name. I'm going to change my birth certificate. I'm going to totally eradicate this other person from existence, and which is fine. But that person, that false self, you want to get rid of. But at the same time, I think to be a whole person, you need to acknowledge the other energy. You know, Again, I think it makes you a whole person. It makes you a complete being. Which the divine is both. You know, you know, both male or female, and neither male nor female, perhaps. Um, so anyway, but that's kind of my video, and I hope, uh, like I said, I kind of needed to. Yesterday, I was just so connected. I was so connected, and it was a magical moment. I was just totally at peace, and it's true. You know, cards are very convenient. Polars are very convenient, but we know that really we are on that spectrum. We're on that spectrum, and how great is it that we live in an age um, that we're accepting. You know, I would not try to dissuade a boy from playing with a girl with a doll's toy with a doll, a girl, a stereotypically girl's toy, in the same way I would not I never dissuaded my daughter from doing boy stuff. You know, and yet and yet last year when I worked at Dollar Tree, the boxes for the toy aisle came in, and they had written in black, in print on the box, boys' toys, girls' toys. And when we would set up the aisle, you know, by area, boys' toys go here, girls' toys go there. They were not just toys. Or better yet, they were not arranged by category. You know, uh, you know, creative toys, paint and clay and stuff you do with your hands and crafts. And then maybe a little further down, you have figures and, models and, dolls and stuff. Again, they had to split it up. And that's something we still have. It's something we're still carrying over. And like I said, in the future, who knows? Who knows? Who knows what holds? Hmm. Interesting. In the same light, and something I think we just experienced in the United States with our former president, um, there are people who are very adamant about protecting the binary model where these don't intersect. Okay. There are people out there who are willing to, I won't say give their lives, but they're going to act like they're going to give their lives because they believe that a higher power, um, you know, higher power will reward them if they maintain this illusionary binary where these don't mix. And I think that's something that we had. Uh, it was a minor element in the last, what we saw happened a couple weeks ago at the Capitol of the United States when it was under attack. People who would get very violent, and because they wanted to protect a system that they grew up with or that they benefited from, whether that be systemic racism or in this case sexism. And I think we need to be vigilant about electing those people into power because, as we saw, um, you know, if they're in power, they're going to model our world in their view, which is where these two don't mix. And under this Christian system, where God is a man, masculine, and women are second to men, um, again, that's like living your life with one of your eyes closed. You don't get the whole picture, you know. And maybe that's something else that, again, understanding the system, and again, for a trans man, um, maybe they don't want to throw this card away to the winds. Use these strengths to be the best person, the best well-rounded person, and it's the same way this way. It almost seems to me, and again, within the first 2 years, maybe three of your transition, you're so hell bent on throwing your masculinity to the wind and perpetuating female stereotypes. You your wardrobe has to be dresses. You're wearing makeup. You're wearing high heels, and a lot of it's because it's something you've always wanted to do. Um, but after that wears off, you kind of realize, you know what, that's a pain in the ass. you know, but to each their own. To each their own. So, all right, I'm going to end it here. I've gone on a little longer than I wanted to, but I just kind of wanted to share a little bit, um, kind of what I realized, and again, my hope for everybody is you're happy. Whether you focus on this, or you focus on this, or you're somewhere in between. Um, my hope is that you're happy, and that's something that, um, I had a conversation with my daughter, the other day about her sense of style, and she made mention that, there were some kids who were laughing at her because of her clothes, which of course as a parent you're like, what's wrong? But my daughter has recently started to be very aware of her clothes. Before she didn't care. So now her clothes match color wise. I mean, she's very well put together. She's becoming a young woman. She really is, like I said, she's developing her own style. And um, the teeny bopper, clueless, meaningless girls, were kind of picking on her. And she was mature enough to just kind of shrug them off and say, laugh all you want. I am who I am. She had a degree of confidence. And, that's something I can say again as trans women in your first 2 to 3 years when you're experimenting and you you want to try things you've never done before. And, you know, you're eventually you're on your own path, you know, and it's just kind of neat. Just kind of neat how it happens. But anyway, so good luck to you. I'm going to sign off there and have a blessed day. Good luck in your journey. Good luck in your life. Till next time. Bye bye.